Welcome back everyone! Today we're going to review Cult of the Lamb, which is developed by Massive Monster, an independent studio I didn't know existed. Cult of the Lamb is a cross between a bad roguelike and a bad management game. However, I consider the final product to be good. To understand why this is the case, I invite you to listen to this video. During the course of the game, you play as a little lamb who finds himself sacrificed in the name of ancient dark gods. He is then reincarnated by another god just as obscure and charged with establishing a sect dedicated to it. The objective is to develop this sect in order to take revenge. Apart from the initial context, the game doesn't really have a story, at least it was not interesting enough for me to follow it closely. There are only a few text dialogues with some NPCs. The game is unique as it is an hybrid between a roguelike and a management game. During the game, you will alternate between the two genres constantly. As far as the roguelike portion is concerned, the game is quite simplistic, which will disappoint fans of the game of this genre, such as Hades and Rogue Legacy. During the fight, we can only attack in close combat with our weapon, cast spells, or dodge the enemy attack. The available weapons are quite generic: a sword, a dagger, an axe, and a hammer. The weapons differ very little from each other except for the attack speed. Each weapon can have an enchantment which is also generic and add nothing to the gameplay, such as lifesteal and critical hit chance. Weapons are randomly generated with every new run. The spells are unfortunately just as generic. There are single or multiple projectiles with chase enemies, freeze them, or poison. During the runs, there are tarot cards that allow you to unlock certain passive skills. The passive skills are simple and unfortunately do not allow synergies with other passive skills, weapons, or spells. In my opinion, this is a very negative point, because the purpose of a roguelike is to create synergies between passive skills, weapon, and spell that you find randomly. What surprised me is that the runs are very short and can be completed in about 10 minutes. Each run is composed of several types of rooms that you can choose from the path you decide to take, and always end with a fight with a boss. So we can decide to take a path that will lead us to fights, to resources necessary for the improvement of our cult, or to a new acolyte. Despite all these flaws, the roguelite portion is saved by the fact that the fights are satisfying. The attacks feel like they're punchy due to the camera vibration, and it's equally satisfying to dodge enemy attacks that comes from all sides. The gameplay is similar to what is found in Dead Door for those who played it. When the run is over, we return to our sect and the management portion of the game begins. We have to build beds for acolytes, maintain a garden to grow food, and feed our cult members. We also have to clean up piles of shit and vomit as our cultists have questionable hygiene. New building and upgrades for them can be unlocked by collecting devotion generated by our cultists. The new building don't really add any new gameplay, they actually reduce the amount of work you have to do. For example, there is a building that allows our cultists to water a garden. Later on, this same building can be upgraded to allow the cultists to sow and harvest the seeds automatically. You can also unlock toilets to avoid having to clean up the piles of shit everywhere. Otherwise, there are also mines and sawmills that can be built to allow our cultists to collect stone and wood, which are the main resources required to build buildings. Gold is the other resources that is required for building construction. However, it can only be collected from chests found during the runs. You can also build and unlock decoration for your cult, which has no impact on the game. However, I had no interest in decorating my cult. The satanic ritual that we can perform are the interesting part of this type of gameplay. By doing side quests for acolytes or by talking to them every day, which is boring and tedious by the way, we increase their level, which allow us to unlock new ritual. Now it is impossible to unlock all the ritual during the game. We're always offered the possibility between one of two rituals. Each ritual has different effects. For example, we can sacrifice one of our acolytes in order to obtain resources, or we can set up a battle arena where two of our acolytes will fight to the death. These are very useful rituals to get rid of undesirable people in our sect. Otherwise, we find some that provide different bonuses, such as feeding the acolyte, collecting taxes from the acolytes, or making them work day and night without rest. Finally, the rituals are subject to a cooldown and requires bones that are collected by killing enemies during runs. As far as the side quests, they are generic and randomly generated. For example, you can be in charge of making an acolyte eat a bowl of shit to someone, or to welcome old or sick acolytes into the cult. By the way, there is no need to get attached to your acolytes since they can die of old age, disease, or be sacrificed. By the end of the game, I had a large graveyard in my cult. However, if graveyards are interesting and you're more of a sadistic type, you can always practice cannibalism and offer your acolytes a food source. The management aspect of the game is very easy. I never had a problem managing food stocks or dealing with the cultists who lose their fate since there are so many ways to get rid of them. Again, this is all rather simplistic and will, in my opinion, disappoint the fans of management games such as Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley. Nevertheless, I find this gameplay component enjoyable. In my opinion, it is due to the fact that we're often alternate between roguelike and management genre, and that when we return to our cult there is always something new to unlock, be it a building or a ritual. However, what I don't like about this gameplay loop is the fact that roguelike runs allow you to collect resources to progress your cult, but the opposite is not quite true. The development of our cult does not really allow us to progress or make our roguelike run easier, apart from the sermon that we can do every day in the cult to increase the base level of the found weapons, or to unlock more spells and enchantments. However, I had unlocked all these improvements well before the end of the game and well before I had unlocked all the buildings for the cult. I finished the game before I could unlock all the buildings. Otherwise, we can also find in the game mini games such as fishing and a dice game. The dice game allows you to unlock passive options that have advantages and disadvantages for roguelike runs, while fishing is a source of food for the cult. The game has 4 difficulty levels: easy, medium, hard, and very hard. The developers recommend playing it at medium. Personally, I went with hard, which I found perfectly balanced. The difficulty option only seemed to affect the amount of health of our character as well as the enemies. I didn't see any effect on the management aspect of the game. On a positive side, if the difficulty doesn't suit you, it can be changed during the game. As far as the graphics are concerned, everything is very nice. Camera perspective is isometric and the game is in 2D. The graphics are drawn by hand. If you like the graphics found in games such as Nobody Save the Worlds, Rogue Legacy 2, and Hades, and you will appreciate what we find here. The art direction is also very good. I like the fact that the developers took the time to develop several models for the cultists. In all, there are 4 different biomes, but they are all very similar. There is also a good variety in terms of enemies and bosses. Being an independent game, the game does not feature any voice acting. Although the soundtrack is good, the game has very few tracks. In the end, I had to mute the music because I was very tired of the repetition. For the PC players out there, the game is not heavy, so I doubt that it will be problematic to run no matter your machine. During the game, I encountered several bugs that required reloading a previous save. Luckily, I have never had more than a few seconds lost thanks to the automatic save. As far as the game lifespan is concerned, it took me about 15 hours to finish the adventure. At the end, I had almost all the optional decorations unlocked. The game does not feature any new Game Plus option. However, it may be worth replaying the game on a higher difficulty level and choosing different rituals. To conclude, Cult of the Lamb deserves your attention if you have the time. The gameplay lacks a lot in depth for both the roguelike and the management aspect. However, the idea of having an hybrid between the two types of gameplay is excellent. The two types of gameplay complement each other very well. I can't wait to see in the future if the concept will be pushed further by other studios. With that, I say you good gaming and see you next time.